I think the tough part now, and maybe it always was in show business, is being attached to those early performances. There aren't that many businesses where you learn in public like we do.
Right.
You do something and you go, I had no idea what I was doing, and there it is. It's still there, and I was 25 years old. And who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see what kind of work they were doing when they were 25.
In this episode of Wisdom, Wealth, and Wellness, host Jonathan Satovsky converses with John Slattery, celebrated for his role as Roger Sterling in Mad Men. They explore Slattery's extensive career as an actor, director, producer, and writer, discussing the evolution of the entertainment industry, financial challenges for actors, and the impact of AI on creative professions.
Okay, welcome to Wisdom, Wealth, and Wellness. This is Jonathan Satovsky, and I am absolutely thrilled to have John Slattery with us today. He's not only an accomplished actor that you may have recognized, he's a director, a producer, he's a writer. He's best known for his unforgettable portrayal of Roger Sterling in the critically acclaimed AMC series Mad Men, which he was nominated 4 times for a Primetime Emmy Award. That's four times.
4 losses.
4 losses. Well,
4-time loser. That's who you got with you today. 4-time loser.
Anyway, his career spanned decades. I've seen him on Broadway, which he's, I think he may have had to do knee replacement surgery because of that work. His talent has earned him prestigious accolades, including SAG Award, and he's recently directed a pretty cool film, Maggie Moore's, a comedy thriller starring John Hamm and Tina Fey. So thanks for spending time with us today, John.
Glad to be here, Jonathan. Jonathan, do you like Jonathan, or is your pod ID just John?
It sounds more mature. Jonathan sounds more mature, but Jonathan, the only good thing about Jonathan I'll tell you is that my mom got me golf balls when I was 40 and I hit them out of bounds. And if you look up Jonathan, it means gift from God. So of course everyone finds these golf balls and they think they're getting gifts from God. It's great.
Nice.
That's the benefit.
You don't go back and get them. If you hit them in the woods, you drop another one.
I don't want to get
I play golf with you. I've seen you hit a lot of balls in the woods.
I don't want to get poison ivy in there. Anyway, you've had such an extensive career in entertainment, spanning over 30 years, from television to film, Broadway. How has your perspective on the industry shifted over time? What do you think? What wisdom would you gain that you wish you knew earlier in your career? Based on what's going on today.
I mean, the changes in show business are happening as we speak. We've gone from basically a broadcast / cable television world, which lasted for 60, 70 years, to a streaming universe that has encompassed all of movies and quote television. So almost all. That's all one thing. I mean, as far as what would I tell my younger self, probably be a little more selective, which sounds counterintuitive. In the beginning, you kind of do everything somebody chucks at you, just because you have to get a toe in the door. But I think being selective and knowing what you do well, which is hard as a young person, but I keep an eye out for what it is you do well, and I trust your instinct, I guess I would say. That's hard to do as a young person too. A lot of people like to tell you what to do as a young professional. But I don't know. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I don't know what I would change necessarily.
Well,
does that answer the question? I mean, the question of changing show business is very relevant too, because I mean, the actors union, the writers union are both on strike as we speak. The directors came to a deal, which a lot of people aren't very impressed by. And it's all about streaming revenue. And as we know, the streaming companies are having their own challenges, or at least they're painting one side of this picture, and the actors and writers are painting another. But the actual business, the model for making content, which is kind of a generic word, but movies and and telling stories, where you make them, how you sell them, how you finance them, and how you distribute them is all over the place right now.
Well, there's more money than there's ever been before, right? So as an actor, director, producer, like you can create content and find someone. Like when you started AMC, right? I imagine everyone was like, wait a second, what's AMC? And AMC, all of a sudden had this blockbuster hit. It was not really on the radar at the time. Is that fair?
Well, not for doing new content. It was that's fair. But, and to say there's more money, I mean, look at AMC's stock is down. Everybody's stock is down. So as to whether, I think what we're looking at is a contraction of this model where you just make a bunch of shit and throw it at the wall and see what sticks and spend a ton of dough and rely on a subscription model is kind of full of holes at this point. And that will result maybe in making less content for less money, because these companies are claiming poverty despite the fact that they're paying their CEOs a lot of dough. So I don't know whether there is more money than ever.
Yeah, but low budget creation. It's interesting because I've heard a little bit about the impact of AI in the entertainment world, and I know just in preparation for this call with you, just as for comedy purposes, we said, okay, ask if I'm speaking to John Slattery, what are questions you want to ask? And of course, they got half the questions wrong, So, people are using AI they think it's going to replace writers and actors and directors, and clearly there's flaws, there's holes. I mean, you're I'm sure you would like to be a pilot, but I think you're a surfer rather than a pilot. So, there's some holes in that story. Yeah.
Yeah. That's maybe the last thing I am as a pilot.
We don't want to get on a plane with you being the pilot.
No.
Only if it's on autopilot. Yeah.
No. Even if I show up with my shirt with the epaulets, you still no.
No, not quite the case. But AI has that. Is that part of the argument that you hear from the studios and the battle between talent and creatives and the studios and the business types, the suits, I guess you would say?
Sure. It's a big part of the Writers Guild slate of issues.
Yeah.
Because clearly you can give an AI a bunch of scripts and then say, write me a procedural, a crime procedural with, these three characters and give me a twist in Act 3, and you'll get a script back. It won't be original, and it won't be artistic, and it won't be certainly written by a human being, but it might be serviceable to someone. And I think that's what the writers are worried about. And I guess AI in its progression can be used to do any number of things. Deep fakes on actors. You see videos all the time that are really impressive. So, I mean, it's a projection as to what it can do in the future, but this is a time where it needs to be acknowledged and regulated in this infancy, so that writers can't be usurped by this technology.
Yeah. All right, let's get something more fun. So
yeah,
you've worked on some
fun though.
All right, let's get something more fun. You've worked on some incredibly successful and popular shows. As of course, we all know you as Tony Stark's father, I think. But Mad Men was more preeminent where people know you. How does it feel to be part of projects that resonate sort of deeply with an audience and sort of capture, I guess, what you would say, cultural time and
yeah, I mean it's
particularly with the changing landscape, right? I mean, it was that particularly Mad Men was so interesting because it was telling about a time that is so taboo today. It's kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm. It does have a certain evergreen status, I think, Mad Men. I mean, like not to compare but Sopranos, say, which also you can go back to that and it works, and the great Mad Men is great writing. It was well cast and extremely well executed, I thought, and we had a really good time doing it. We all recognized that from the beginning.
Yeah.
That the scripts were unusually good. I mean, the pilot script was, and then I've been involved in TV shows where the pilot, takes a year and a half to write and is combed over and scrutinized by everybody, and then given a healthy budget to shoot and tons of attention. And then the show gets picked up, and then you got to crank out episodes a week at a time with 7 days of shooting. So the quality level can drop off, which this did not. We did all that. We were confined to a short schedule shooting episodes, but the quality just got better. I mean, the quality of the writing was really extraordinary. And that from there, everything progressed, people knew how good it was in-house. All of the creative and department heads and everybody really tried to keep up with that level of storytelling. So it was
sort of like
a great place to go to work.
I was going to say it's like a culture, right? It's like
yeah.
The culture that was created between the writers and the actors and the talent and the creatives. They were all collaborating. And would you say that's the key? You can feel it. And that's the key to creating great entertainment that really strikes a chord, where you feel like everyone is in harmony? Or is there sometimes that it's just, is there different formulas that you've experienced that have been successful or not successful?
Yeah, I don't know about the harmony part. I mean, we were harmonious and we got along, but there were flare ups and tempers and, differences of opinion, certainly all the time. And I think that's part of it. You have to be free enough and confident enough in your interpretation of whatever the scene, the moment is to defend it. And then if somebody else has a better argument, then you go with that. And each set is different. Each show is different. But I think to have that writing as a platform, there was a certain expectation of like, come ready to go to work, and if you didn't, you heard it. So every one of us probably somewhere along the line were like, for better or worse, told, keep maybe your focus isn't what it should be, or in an effort to kind of keep the blood pumping in the thing after several seasons, and it can be, they're all kind of traps to fall into when you've been doing something for a long time. People can get blasé or take things for granted or assume that the audience knows a certain thing, but anyway.
So the level of accountability, it sounds like you had good level of co-accountability, because you wanted to be able to produce for the rest of your people.
Yeah.
As you know, I talk a lot about financial wellness. Many actors struggle with financial stability, right? Finding stability and financial security in an unpredictable industry. You and I joke about it. You're like, look, just let's keep out of whiskers. We're fine. But
for the people who are listening, that refers to any character in a scenario where you have to don a cowl or some whiskers, or some space creature with big ears, or some of them.
It's hard to get another role
successful.
Yeah.
But just trying to keep out of the whiskers was a goal for a time. Yeah.
So how have you approached your thought about, as you said, being selective about parts, right? Sometimes people I imagine actors, because the financial roller coaster can be unstable. How have you approached it in both navigating, being selective and managing your own finances through the ups and downs, professionally, to give you some security to be able to perform in your career? Because I would imagine, this is just a guess, that people might get a little anxious and take a bad part, or do things that compromise themselves, or they lose their center a bit.
Yeah, for example, I mean, if somebody threw a pair of whiskers at me right now, I'd strap them on in 2 seconds. I'd be like a big, so I'd be a space gerbil.
Ah,
Um, I Yeah, I mean, I spent the last 2 years making this film, an independent film for which
yeah,
you're not paid extremely well,
yeah,
and and uh, and then there was COVID, and then putting the movie out. So, yeah, there is no regular income stream in my business. Even when you are lucky enough to be on a show like Mad Men, that's a 6 month gig out of the 12,
yeah.
and the rest of the 6 months you're looking for work, um, and that's fine, and that's a secure job that went on for the better part of 10 years, the making of it. Um, so yeah, I'm always looking for a job, and then you, like you say, if you want to be selective and you want to, I haven't been in the theater in a long time. I'd like to do a play. Plays don't pay like television. Nothing pays like television, although right now television doesn't pay at all. But yeah, so you have to. It's tricky to make people aware of the specific anxieties of trying to pay real world bills in a make pretend economy. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to hook onto a show that shoots 10 episodes of this and then another one that shoots 10 episodes of that, which is a very a relevant struggle with. That's what everybody's talking about. Like how do you make a year's worth of income on an 8 episode show? Or it used to be,
Right.
you got on a television show, there were 22 episodes, and that was a year's worth of what that covered, pay your bills and your insurance and your rent and your mortgage and everything. Now it's 8 episodes of money that isn't as good. Yeah, so trying to live in the world with that as your income is stressful and tricky.
Yeah. So I imagine many high, people perceive that high profile actors or athletes, in the public eye they assume they're financially have stability, right? Because
Yeah.
they're like high profile. But as you said, it's sometimes all show and no go, as it says, I guess. We've seen some
Yeah.
people with extravagant spending or legal disputes or investment losses leads to setbacks, bankruptcies. I mean, I imagine you must witness from your peers successes and failures of high profile individuals and things that you've witnessed that you said, oh, that's smart. That's a good hack. Or that's a bad way to approach things. Like, have you learned some lessons from some people that have done it well and not so well over the years? You don't have to name names, but, have you witnessed people that have been good or bad role models, mentors to you, so to speak, over the years?
Yeah, but every case is different. I mean, you can look at someone who's a friend and they look different. They sound different. They get different kinds of parts. They it's just hard to compare to anyone else's
Not parallel.
situation.
Yeah. Not
there
parallel.
are a lot of distinct parallels.
Yeah. Well, then maybe you could learn what not to do. You would witness someone and say, yeah, I definitely don't want to do that.
Right. But as soon as you say that, there's the space gerbil again. And you go, boy, thank God I haven't had to do that. And then 2 years of making a movie and another year and a half of COVID and the strike. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, do you want to go, to deep space? And you go, yeah, I do. So, and I think if you've done a certain amount of work, and sometimes even not. I mean, you have to do what you have to do. But if you've done a certain amount of work, hopefully you can expect that your peers will go, they'll know what a money gig looks like.
Yeah.
And won't necessarily hold it against you.
Yeah. So, well, I think if I remember, you do a lot of surfing for self-care. I talk about wisdom, wealth, and wellness. So your wellness and self-care, both the demands of writing, directing, filming, being in different locations around the world. Have you developed daily habits to stay mentally and physically healthy? Because you're not always in a location that you can surf to get your mind quiet. Is there things you've done to be able to help you stay grounded and centered in that regard?
Yeah, I do surf, but as you said, you can't do that everywhere. Exercise, certainly, daily. I do TM, which I've been doing for years.
We actually had
and I
Bob
should
Roth. We actually had Bob Roth, I think, as a guest on one of the
really.
podcasts. Who's the?
I should do it more. It's funny how I'm someone who, in the times I really should be meditating, or the times that I go away from it. I don't know if that's common, but it's really the most sort of anxious, stressful type situations. It's not all of them. Like when I was directing this film, that's a stressful situation. I would wake up and do that every morning, just to start the day with a less scrambled, chain of ideas and tasks. But yeah, just sort of try to moderate everything. Don't drink too much. Don't go crazy obsessing over. I mean, it's hard right now. Waking up and not looking at your phone to see if you got a job. But it's hard to live that way. You have to be where you are and accept that this is going to take a while and figure out something else to do. So yeah, I do. I'm in Long Island right now. I can surf here if the weather's right. And, there's the beach, I read a lot, there's films and, the same thing everybody else does. Just try not to go over the deep end in one area or another.
Yeah. Tell us about Maggie Moore's, a film inspired by real life murders of two women from Houston. I know that I've heard you talk passionately about this, but what drew you to telling the story? What stories and topics, are you most passionate about bringing to life right now through this story?
It is a story based on the real life, as you just said, the real life murders of two women in Houston in the year 2000. Both of them were named Mary Morris, and they were found in a short span of time, both dead in this small town. So that was a circumstance that the writer of Maggie Moore's thought was an interesting jumping off point, and then created a fictitious world based on that. So while this is an open case, this Mary Morris case in Houston, and anybody, and I've spoken to the daughters of both of these women, and they're obviously all they want is to figure out what happened. It's still an open case. So if anybody knows anything, they can call Crime Stoppers and provide any assistance. But this film is about, it stars John Hamm and Tina Fey and Nick Mohammed from Ted Lasso. People know him from that. And it's a dark comedy about a bunch of people in a small town, all of whom are at a point in their lives that is sort of critical. One's a widower, one is recently divorced, one is business is just sort of falling apart. And what I liked about the script is that there's a lot of different tones, little tonalities going on. There's some violence, there's some thrills, there's a little romance, there's some loneliness, and the script is written by a guy named Paul Birnbaum, and the movie turned out great. It's on demand now, wherever you get your movies, and it goes to Hulu in the fall. And should I keep talking? And we shot in Albuquerque,
New
Mexico.
No, it's go ahead.
And it's a desert story. And Hamm is great in it. He plays the chief of police. Tina Fey plays the next door neighbor of a guy who has a small business and is up to some sketchy stuff that his wife finds out about, and gets himself in up to his neck pretty quick. And it's up to John Hamm and Nick Mohammed, who plays Hamm's deputy, and they're very funny together, to work out what the hell is going on in this small town where nothing much has ever happened. And it's really terrific. I'm
Excellent.
very proud of it.
Look forward to seeing it. So, do you see directing more as a byproduct? How was the experience of directing versus being on the other side of the camera for you? I mean, that must be interesting.
I directed a bunch of Mad Men episodes, and I've directed for Judd Apatow, and I made a feature a few years ago called God's Pocket with Philip Seymour Hoffman and John Turturro and Richard Jenkins, and great actors. So I've done a bit of it, and I like it. Like anything, if you get the right script and the right collaborators, it's great. It's difficult because there's a lot more. You're responsible for a lot more than just your own performance.
Yeah.
I produced this as well and hired everybody, and which I like doing, but it's challenging, and it's challenging if you don't have a lot of money, which I didn't. But I'd like to do it again. I would. I'm looking for a story, looking for another script, and I'd like to act, though I haven't done that in a couple of years. That'd be fun. My day job.
Mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
This is kind of just a change of venue for a moment. How does your, being a father, as you raise a child and you see, your child now getting into the real world, right? Graduating college, I think next year. Is that right?
He's graduated college and he's taking acting lessons.
Oh, Joe! Oh boy! Here we go.
Oh,
all right.
joy.
So how is that?
Oh, joy.
How's that approach to your perspective of your work, your roles, even coaching him through his journey? Mm-hmm. How's that changed your perspective a bit on the industry and maybe on giving him a boost?
I think it's great that he's doing it. I think he'll be good at it. I've seen him; he is good at it. And my wife is obviously an actor, and her parents are both actors. And so I don't know whether it's in the blood or just seems like a normal business to go into. Whereas, my growing up show business seemed kind of outrageous to the people that I was living with. Not outrageous, just unlikely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, somebody just sent me a clip of a commercial audition that I did 35 years ago, a guy that I bumped into. And it was sort of horrifying because I thought, I'll see myself younger. And I was terrible. It was just terrible. And I thought,
but here you are. You still worked.
Yeah. I mean, I managed to. Luckily, I don't think I got that part, but or it never saw the light of day, and I hope it never does. But again, being selective and you could. It's hard sometimes with material that's not great to be good. So that was my point early on, was saying, try to be selective because you give yourself a better chance with good material than you do with shit material.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the same in any business. I mean, if you're working with good people in a company that means something, you're liable to do better work.
So you tell your son that even at a young age, like be selective about the work you're taking. It's hard because I'm sure he wants to break through and get a spot, get anything just to show that he's got his foot in the door, right? On his own.
Yeah, it really helps to have somebody to go, don't waste your time on that.
Yeah.
I wish I had that. It was a different world when I came up and I was doing commercials, and a lot of commercials are silly, and they're just, it's just a way to make money and quit the job at the law firm that I had when I first moved to New York City. So there was a reason for it, and it provided, a service, but it's tough to be. I think the tough part now, and maybe it always was in show business, is being attached to those early performances. There aren't that many businesses where you learn in public like we do.
Right.
You do something and you go, I had no idea what I was doing, and there it is. It's still there, and I was 25 years old, and who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see what kind of work they were doing when they were 25.
Yeah, let me hide some of the things on IMDb or whatever. I don't want to be recognized on that part. Yeah.
I mean, some of them are good, some of them aren't good, but fact that they don't go away.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. So daily habits, finally you once told Stephen Colbert.
I got something
brewing. So you once told Stephen Colbert that you read the New York Times physically, the physical newspaper every day. Do you still? And what else do you do every day that gives you joy?
I do still read the New York Times, the actual physical copy of the New York Times.
You're the only subscriber, huh? You're the only one left.
I know in my elevator in my apartment, I think I said that on that show, that there used to be a stack of them, and you would grab yours off the stack, and now there's one, maybe two. I like reading the paper because I don't necessarily enjoy other people's interpretation of the news. Whether it depends, I don't care what your proclivities are. I don't want to see some guy from CNN or some woman from MSNBC or someone from Fox or wherever you watch telling me how, enhancing it when we're spinning it, which they all do. So I feel like, and I know that the New York Times is of a certain bent, but it just, reading the words on the page seem a little less, what's the word? Performance-like.
Yeah. Cool. So it's joyful.
I read the paper. Journal too. I read other papers besides the New York Times, but I just feel like, sensational is what I was thinking, the word.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get a joy out of processing on your own, being able to think for yourself. I think that's probably, there you go. You can, if you want to share that with your son, you could tell him processing information, self-filtering is probably important, right? Where can people?
Yeah. Thinking, figuring out what having an opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can people connect? Do you have like a web page, social media when new things are put out, whether you're on Broadway or on a film or putting a movie together? Is there they find you or you're invisible? Just find you on the surfboard.
They can't find me. It's selling this movie was the first time I wish that maybe I had more of a social media presence, but I'm not compelled to alert people when I'm eating
I like
avocado
that.
Toast or whatever.
People want to know. People are interested.
Here's me. I'm moving my foot. Like what? I don't understand what people's like. What the. All
right, we'll leave with one good fun. Fun. Yeah. I know we're a little over time, but if you had an alter ego career path and a road untaken that would surprise most people, what would you do?
I have no idea. What would I do? I've thought of doing this since I was middle school. Probably elementary school. What would I do for a job? I was going to say maybe politics, but that was when I was younger, and it seemed like politics was an arena that you had to be less conditioned to perform in. Now it seems like the people who are running for office are people who I guess, there's no different than who had this in their head since they were of a certain age and have adhered to a certain kind of behavior in order not to be caught out. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So I don't know what the hell I'd do if I wasn't doing this.
Politics. Hey, we need, we can always throw in another candidate. We could write you in the ballot for 2024, I think,
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us today. I'm grateful for your spending half an hour and good luck with Maggie Moore's. And I think that's great to, if anyone, since it's an unsolved crime, to throw in any information they know. And I hope that your future is the next 25 years are better than the last 25 for you. So
thanks, man.
If anyone enjoyed this and wants to subscribe, you can subscribe free for Wisdom, Wealth, and Wellness anywhere on where you get your podcasts or on YouTube. All links are in the show notes, and it's Satovsky.com podcast. Thanks a lot.
Satovsky Asset Management, hyper-personalized wealth management that has created joy and abundance since 2007.